All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for those that are either joining now or will join at any point during this stream. It means so much for us to be able to do this, to have an opportunity to do this. And this is the first time that we've ever been live. So uh, bear with us if there's some technical difficulties. I've done a lot of back end work. So my hope is that there is not, and everything here runs smoothly. But uh, as with even with our first video, which we're going over today, our bear hunt was our first film. There's so much room for improvement. So, if you have ideas of what you want to see from us or how to make these better, please reach out and let us know because we want to make things as seamless and as awesome for you when you are interacting with us. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into our bear hunt. And this is our 2024 Utah bear hunt. And this is the first time that anybody in our family had ever done a bear hunt. So I really wanted to do it behind the scenes to let you know what all goes into a bear hunt, uh, the unknowns and the fear and the excitement. I mean, this hunt really has it all. And there's just so much that goes into it. And I think a behind the scenes is warranted for you to get an opportunity to ask any questions that uh, come to mind as you watch this film. Maybe you've already watched it before and you thought of something, or maybe now it's going to be the first time you're going to see this. But I mean, you hunt for almost a month and you're trying to compress that down into 42 minutes of video. There's so much that gets left out, and there's so much that I wish I could share and I didn't get a chance to in the film. And that's where day comes in, that I can hopefully give some more behind the scenes. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll let the video play. I'll stop at certain points and talk through things. And again, if you have any questions, I'll stop and address those as needed. So let's get started. Hopefully things work smooth. Well, welcome everyone to the start of bear season 2024. Today is May 22nd, so season officially starts on May 27th, but we're headed down this weekend for Memorial Day. Gonna hang out with some family and also start to scope out the bait sites, make sure I know where I want to put bait down, start to look. Can't officially put bait on the ground until Monday, which is the 27th. But that means for now we are going to start prepping for bear bait season. So we got donuts, we got cookies, lots of oatmeal cookies. So this hunt, it actually opened up on Memorial Day here in Utah. So it opened up on the Monday. That was Memorial Day. This was prior to Memorial Day as we're gathering everything. And I did not plan to hunt. The plan was not to hunt that weekend, even though the hunt opened on Monday. The plan was truly to start hunting the following weekend and actually truly hunt that next Saturday when we could get down there. That Friday afternoon, we can get back down there. So what you're seeing here is everything that we had gathered as far as bait goes up to that point. And let me tell you, you don't know what to get. You don't know what to get for a bear bait. You don't know how much you're going to need. I didn't know how many boxes of donuts I was going to need, how many boxes of cookies and dog food, anything that goes into that. And you'll get a chance when we get to the bait to actually see what we put down. But trips to Walmart. I was taking trips to Walmart, looking in the reduced section. What do you have? What are the donuts that are reduced? French bread, anything that we could get our hands on that was reduced. And I thought I had enough with what was right here. And this was not even close to what you'd need for the amount of bears that we ended up have coming in. So keep in mind, if you're looking at that pile, you need a lot more than that when it comes time for your bear hunt. Back of the truck, we have 100 pounds of dog food and peanut oil. Also have some Boar Masters coming in the mail. But we think this is going to be enough. It's kind of hard when you just kind of are starting out and you kind of have to see, is it Is it going to be enough? What kind of bear, what kind of activity are we going to get on these sites, and kind of go from there. So this will be kind of the first initial push. We're going to have 2 bait sites this year and cameras on both, see what kind of activity we get, and then we'll go from there. And every weekend after that we'll restock and we'll hunt. We'll keep doing that, but plan is to hunt Memorial Day and that Monday, then come back home, regroup, and go back down that following weekend, which is the first weekend of June, and hunt some more. So lots to come. This is going to be an exciting film. It's the first of many, and excited to bring you along. Well, we've made it to the canyon for potential bait site number 1. So here I refer to things in this early film as about potential bait sites. So in the state of Utah, you have to register and buy your bait sites. And as part of that process, you put down coordinates of where you think you're going to put your bait site. Now, this would be a really easy task if you've done this before and you know exactly where you want to put your bait site, or perhaps you've gone there ahead of time, which is the recommended path. Is you go ahead of time and you scope out a spot and actually get the true coordinates that you're going to be placing your bait site. Having never been on a bear hunt and having never been in these canyons for the purpose of bear hunting, all I had was a general idea. I was going through Google Maps and finding the spots where I thought we could get into and thought we could place a bait site. And I knew I wanted 2. I wanted 2 different sites, 2 different canyons, just to see what might come to either site. And so I was guessing when I registered the sites of, I think this is the general idea of where I could see a bear being, or see us even getting into. These canyons are steep and nasty. You can't even get into a lot of these spots. So it was all a guess. So at this point, hunt has not opened up yet. We're still just trying to find the spot we might want to set things up and basically get everything ready before you can actually put food on the ground. So you can do a lot of the prep work. You can get the sites ready. This would have been the Sunday. We couldn't put bait on the ground until Monday. So this is just us finding those sites and hiking around, because there was a lot of work that has to go into this just to find where you even want to put stuff down. So that's where this is at in the film. Today is Sunday, May 26th, the day before hunt opens. So we're just going to do some hiking up, see what we can see if there's a spot I can get to that looks like I might be able to have a shooting advantage or something like that. But we're going to be heading up this canyon here behind us and seeing what we see. Hunted this canyon a lot, just never walked up the bottom of it to see if there's a spot that you could hunt a bear in and put some bait down. So keep you posted, but we'll see what it brings. Well, dang, I'm not too mad about this. This is proposed bait site number 1. Turned out to be exactly where we put it. So I don't know if you could see that when before we were right on the roads, right on the dirt road. There's kind of a big ditch, and then there's a big long green field. A lot of cows and turkeys will actually be in that green field, and then you get into the bottom of these canyons. At this point, we've walked up the bottom of that canyon, and I had guessed a spot on GPS coordinate, and it was almost dead on, like almost exact of where I guessed. Thought maybe that looks like an opening right there. The GPS coordinate was like within feet of where I ended up putting it. So, hey, if you don't believe in e-scouting and getting on Google Maps and seeing where you can actually get into, you should, because I got within feet of where I thought we might be able to put a bait site, and it looked really good. So definitely e-scout, get on Google Maps and see what areas you might be able to get into when it comes time for your bear hunt. Coordinates are almost dead on for just eyeballing it on a map. So it's turned out pretty nice up this canyon. I'll turn this around here. Get an idea of the site so far. Little lean-to teepee style bait station. They have this trail goes up this canyon. A couple more trails come down. Got a really nice shooting lane all the way back into there. Have a little blind set back into there. You'll also have scent, and all the bears that come off these cliff sides as well come down into here. So not too shabby. Nice clean shooting lane. Got cameras all set, but yeah, this is looking real nice.
Smack dab right in the bottom of the
camera
canyon.
and bait posted there. Yeah, not too shabby. I'll take this any day of the week. We just had lunch, had the good.
Not sure if you could see there, but my dad, oh my gosh, the amount of knowledge that he shared when it's come hunting seasons and everything about me as a hunter is really because of my dad. And coming off of shoulder surgery, he is fresh off of shoulder surgery and decided to come on this hunt with me, help me with his one free arm, was helping pull in buckets of bait, move logs with one arm. And oh man, I can't thank him enough. So you see him in his sling, that's a testament of how much he loves the outdoors, how much he wants to be involved in our hunts. And gosh, I almost get emotional talking about it, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. So truly moving all that bait, you have somebody that's willing to lend a hand, even just one, take it. Take the help you can get. So, yeah, a lot of this prep work is just me and him, and it was 1.5 men as he didn't have full use of one arm.
Mountain House Meals, Buffalo Noodles. Go check it out. Go get yourself some. Then we're going to head down into bait site number 2, and it'll be placed down deep in this canyon here. So we'll be going off into this canyon. Done a lot of deer hunting in this canyon, but there's some bears that hang out in here, so we'll drop down. There's kind of a shelf down in here. We'll get a...
I hope you can tell how steep that canyon actually is.
Bait station
video doesn't do it justice.
Hopefully pull some bears out of this canyon too, so I'll update you again once we get down to this next bait. All right, update, 2 o'clock. Bait site number 2 is finished. Hiked into this canyon. You can kind of see up above here, it's where our shooting spot's going to be, up on these cliffs up here. And then we kind of have a big shelf here that comes out. Kind of see this big shelf. Shooting spot will be up there. This big old canyon here. This big canyon here. We got bait spot number 2.
For reference, it's about
got this little horseshoe set
back
up.
of that far canyon. It's about 1,500 yards.
It's probably a little windy.
You get clear back into those deep pines that you can see there.
Already hearing, we think we hear bears in this canyon, so hopefully that's a good sign. That big, deep, nasty canyon in here. So hopefully we can draw some bears up onto this shelf and get a good little shot, but pretty cool. Finally opening morning. You can actually put bait on the ground, so that's all the plan is today, is to just put bait on the ground, get it set up, get cameras turned on, and go home, and we'll actually start hunting next weekend. But still have to do all the precautions. You never know what you could come across, so we're locked and loaded and ready to shoot a bear if we do see something. So beautiful morning, but we're all loaded down, bike's loaded down with food, and we'll start packing it in, going up this canyon.
This is
no
what we
better
call
feeling
bait
than
site
opening
1.
morning, that's for
That
sure.
bottom bait
All
site.
right, we're at bait site number 1. We're going to start. Actually, there's a lot of research on what to do at bait sites, and I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think anything you do, there's a list of things that bears won't eat is a lot smaller, but we'll put a big 50-pound bag of dog food down as a base layer, and then we'll have some sweets and stuff on top, and then we'll oil it up, put our Boardmasters on top of that. So kind of the big thing here is to just get a big spread here, because this is going to be that filler that they're going to really eat, is the dog food stuff.
When it comes to actually build a bait site, we've never done it before. So when I mentioned I did a lot of research, I listened to a ton of podcasts about bear hunting, bear bait. The Reckoning podcast, they have a really good one where they go into a few of their bear hunts and how they actually prepared their bait sites. And I honestly tried to model what I was hearing of how they prepared their bait sites, as well as watching a ton of videos out there. So understanding that you can make it difficult for the bears to get it into. They like to try to dig for it. So you can see all those sticks and stuff there. When we put all this bait down and it's done, we actually push those sticks back on top. It's, to a bear, they'll rip and pull those boulders out, no problem. But they do want to have to dig for it and find that food. And this site, it turned out so sweet. If you can kind of model this, you can get those big boulders, sticks, find a fallen tree to use. It worked really well to keep all that bait contained. So, bears don't get in there and rip it all out and spread it everywhere. This kind of site setup was really smooth if you can mimic that.
That was probably super loud on the mic, but sorry about that. Sometimes you could do a little crater in there. It keeps these sweets attached a little better.
One thing about it, when it's the first hunt of the season, keep in mind this is end of May. You don't know how out of shape you actually are until you try to carry in a 50-pound bag of dog food, and then you hear yourself in post-production on the microphone breathing so hard by just walking around. So that is embarrassing to hear how hard I am actually breathing in these clips, because, man, get in better shape than I was at this hunt. So apologize if you hear me breathing hard. That's just me being so out of shape.
And sweets, like I said earlier, we have donuts, cookies, knockoff Oreo cookies, oatmeal cookies, and popcorn, some French bread too. So just kind of, it's like my bag's tearing on me. Ooh, see, that looks beautiful right there. And from there we got peanut oil mixed with Boarmaster's food additive, so some potent sweet stuff in here. Here you don't really want to get too much onto that, but really if you can get out in front of this bait on these rocks all up in here, it just makes it so when they crawl in there, they get on their paws and they're making scent trails on their way out. So
that's a huge piece of advice I have. When you're putting down any sort of oil, anything sticky, try not to get it onto the food, but rather all the way out in front of the bait site. Bears will crawl all the way into that food, into that bait. So I want the stickiness and everything on their paws, not on the food that they're eating. That way when they walk in and out, when they're done, they're actually creating their own scent trails where their den is, and that scent gets even further. So don't put anything oil-wise onto your food. Keep that all out in front of the bait site, and you'll see a lot better results that way. You'll see a lot of this mentioned to Boarmasters. Dude, Boarmasters, go buy their kits. Go buy anything that they have when it comes to your bear season, because it is the most potent, sweet, and attracting stuff that I've ever heard of. I've ever smelled. I mean, some of the smell, like, you have to, don't get it on any of your clothes. I recommend if you're using it, even here, like, I didn't know we're in full camo. You're setting up your bait sites. I wouldn't be wearing the clothes you're going to be wearing. If not, be super careful not to get anything the scent wise on yourself, because, bears have a keen sense of smell. I'd rather them be smelling bait than smelling me. And but yeah, go check Boarmasters out. Their stuff is legit. It is the best stuff on the market, and you won't find better stuff when it comes to your bear attractant and anything like that. They even have bear bait now. They actually have big bait barrels you can buy. So it's legit. Go buy that stuff. Spend the money, because it will change your hunt for sure.
Try to be real careful with this stuff. It carries this pretty deadly smell. I guess I don't know how much was half, probably a little more. There we go. We'll save some of that for that second sight. Ooh, yeah, you can already start to smell that.
You can too.
From here
It's not a fun smell. With the peanut oil, it's definitely not a fun smell.
Some of our Boar Masters. So we got Boar Masters raspberry donut spray. We'll spray up all these trees around, a little bit around the bait site, but really get these trees and get it kind of higher up.
The sprays smell good, but
15 feet high up
man,
on the
peanut
spray.
oil mixed with that stuff doesn't smell as good.
Next, we'll start putting on our feed additive. Stuff's like 100 times sweeter than sugar. It's pretty concentrated, so open this up. The thing with this is a little bit goes a long ways. I think they say a couple ounces per 50-pound bag of bait. So
you heard me say that, right? You heard me say it's 100 times sweeter than sugar. A little bit goes a long way, and you only need a couple ounces on a 50-pound bait site. I use a lot more here than a couple ounces, and I really didn't realize how much I was using until editing, and I get back into editing the footage, and it's like, oh my gosh, I use so much of that. This stuff, it says it triggers feeding frenzy. So when bears consume this, it's mixed into the food, and they consume this, it triggers for them to be hungry more often. So it's similar with any sweets, right? You crave more sweets, and because it is so concentrated, it triggers for them to want to eat more often than they typically do. So yeah, a little bit goes a long way. You don't need to use as much as we did here, but you know what? It worked. So maybe you do.
just try not to get into oil. Kind of sprinkle this around. Oh yeah, that's looking good.
You can see how the wind's carrying that. Don't stand downwind like I'm doing here because it's actually getting onto me. So not a smart move there.
That's some sweet stuff. Use about a quarter of that bag. We'll save some for next weekend too. Next up, our Sweet Surrender Predators paste. This stuff you kind of wrap on some trees and bark and rocks, and they'll lick the stuff out of this until it's all gone. So
it's like a jam.
Kind of goes
like
on easier with a glove.
Really potent
Get your
jam.
hand in there.
A glove's a smart move. Don't get this on your fingers and stuff. Definitely get a glove. It rubs a lot smoother onto rocks if you have a glove on.
You can see this is kind of like a jelly jam. I'll see if I can get it on some of these rocks and stuff. Ooh, that's some cold stuff.
And just when you open this, when you open that container, immediate smell. And Boar Masters does a lot of advertising that the smell of their products will actually pull in bears for up to 5 miles.
Get my oil mess.
That's the truth. It will pull in bears within 5 miles. So it is very potent stuff. This is even probably has the best smell, and the most concentrated smell comes from the paste as opposed to anything else we used.
I was just going to try to get some of these trees and stuff.
What I was talking about when you hear me breathing hard. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
I'll probably eat this Quakey all the way gone. I'm going to try to get this big pine tree too.
So I want you to make note. It's kind of hard to see, but that is my rifle propped up against that tree with the cover on. So cover on. I do not have any shells racked into that. So that is an unloaded rifle sitting there. When bear season is on, we're putting bait on the ground and putting a Attractant out, and I have the rifle sitting there with the cover on, no shells in it at this point in time. And that's super important in a moment here, and you'll see why.
I don't know if I still want to put it with my camera because I don't want them beating my cameras. This pine tree here be a good one.
Turned out it didn't really matter much. They still, we had a bear come up, check out my camera, and actually put a claw through it. So
It smells like.
It didn't even matter that we didn't put any bait around
like
that camera because they
now.
still found it.
Just kind of coat this whole pine tree. Oh yeah, that's looking good, this pine tree. We'll just keep doing it. Got some more to go here. Thank goodness this isn't a sticker bush here.
Yeah, I just dove into that bush. I did not look to see if there was any thorns in it. Probably a smart move to do that before you dive into that. To make sure there's not any thorns.
Shout out to Boardmasters for this stuff.
Sticker bush there.
I can already tell it's going to be some potent stuff. Yeah. It's fine. Probably got more to go. I was going to use a quarter of this. I'll get into this bush too. Yeah.
So I hope you can hear that. In post-production, and it does it again here, I actually increase the audio. So if you can hear what sounds like a motorcycle, so it sounds like a low rumble like a motorcycle, that's, or even like a chainsaw starting up, a four-wheeler backfiring. We were hearing that, and you can hear it right there. You can hear it again in a moment here really well because of the post-production editing. But having never been on a bear hunt, like what could that audio, like what could that sound be when you hear that? It's unnerving when you're out in the wilderness and you hear a sound. So that's kind of why it brought us on high alert. But it was like, what could that be? Like, is somebody up the canyon? Is somebody starting up a chainsaw? Are they cutting down trees? Like, I didn't know what it was. Turns out that sound you're hearing is a bear that is, we're approaching on a bear's territory. So that is the bear actually clacking his jaws because we are so close to where his den is or her den is that we're approaching on their territory. So that is a territorial sound the bears will make, is that clacking of their jaw sound. And keep in mind, we're just barely putting the bait down for the first time. So bear is smelling what we're putting down already within moments because there's a bear somewhere within about, I would say by the sound of this, with how loud it was getting, especially here in a moment, somewhere within about less than 100 yards from us at any point in time that we had no idea until afterwards was like, get home, on the way home, looking at things up, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the sound of a bear that we were hearing. There's a bear already there that we hadn't even needed to attract. There was a bear already in that canyon within 100 yards of us. and I don't even have a shell racked on that gun. I mean, how scary. How scary. The bear's growling at us and trying to get us off the site because we're approaching on its territory and we didn't even know. So when you hear that sound, that's what that is. That is a bear growling at us as we're putting the bait down on the ground for the first time. And I did not have I was scared here, but not scared to the extent that I should have been.
We're hearing some stuff up here. Sorry about that. We got strangest sounds happening up here. It almost sounds like a chainsaw or a motorcycle starting up this canyon, but there's no way there's a motorcycle up there, so something's alive up in this canyon, probably a bear. But lastly, Boarmaster spray raspberry donut. Key here is just spray up and around, get this higher up, let the scent travel up into that canyon and some of this canyon too. So I'll spray a little around this bait site.
Because this bait site is in the bottom of the canyon, I really wanted to get that scent up, so as far up on those trees as I could. So when breeze blows through that canyon, it does actually get that scent to carry somewhere else. You'll see a lot of what I'm spraying here is spraying up. I'm spraying up as high as I can get onto these trees.
Cool part about this stuff is it reactivates with rain. So if there is a chance we could get a storm, shouldn't be in the forecast, but it'll reactivate all that scent with rain. Just keep getting some scent trails all through this place.
And you'll see in a moment the audio sound's going to pop up. You'll see a symbol. That's when I edited the audio in post-production to bring up the sound of that bear growling at us. So you may need to turn up your audio as well, but anything if you have a subwoofer, you're going to really hear that rumble of that bear growling at us here in a moment. That's a bear. It's a bear growling at us.
We got to get moving. We're either going to shoot a bear right now or I'm not sure what that is.
Urgency picks up here a little bit. Once you hear it once, like, okay, you hear it twice. I didn't feel so comfortable being right there in the moment anymore.
Be done with this bait site and we'll check in at bait site number 2. Made it to bait site 2. Had some excitement at bait site 1. I don't know what that was. I think there's a bear already there within 100, 150 yards, kind of that low gurgly growl sound. Something was growling at us, something that was saying, get out of here and let me eat my donuts. So sat there for a minute, nothing came in, but all the way here to bait site 2, we'll drop bait, same thing, same process. Dog food, sweets, oil, spray. Let it roll off. There's kind of a big cliff here. We'll let it roll, all this scent roll off and kind of carry down this canyon. But yesterday we were hearing all sorts of kind of crashing up in here, so we think there's already something up in this kind of area, and we have kind of known to be bears up in here. So we'll throw this down and get out of here. All right, back at camp, weekend number 2. A little more.
So everything up to this point, in these hunting in these canyons, we've only pretty much exclusively hunted deer. We've hunted elk a handful of times in here because we know there's some bulls in these canyons, but we've seen bears. Like we've heard of people seeing bears. We've either seen a bear before. A couple of years before this, we had some family friends that had some trail cameras in these canyons, and they had one bear on their trail camera. So I knew it was a possibility that there were bears in these canyons. We actually know of an outfitter that we had talked to the year before on a deer hunt, and he had what he thought was a pretty good record-sized bear or something that got him really excited. He exclusively guides for bear hunts. So I knew that it was a possibility that there were bears in these canyons, or at least 1 or 2. And that's kind of why I drew the tag. I shouldn't have drawn the tag. I didn't have enough points to draw this tag, but I got lucky. I drew this tag. So It was kind of like, I don't know where to go. Kind of have an idea there could be bears in here. When we're putting down those baits, even in the bait site number 2, you could hear cracking, crashing. Like there were animals in these canyons. Odds are probably an elk or maybe not a deer making the sound that we were hearing, but we knew that it was a possibility that there were some bears in here. And being early summer, with bears getting up, being more active, they're coming out of hibernation. I was feeling good about what I was hearing. I was feeling good about actually getting into these canyons and hearing sounds, hearing something that could be a bear. It definitely increased the excitement. So this is now moving to the next weekend, and I had a good friend come with me this weekend. My best friend for life was with me at this point in time. Family was going to be coming down later, so we wanted to get down and do our first hunt that evening. This would be, I think it's Friday evening, that we wanted to do our first hunt before some of the rest of the family could get down. So it's just me and him, and yeah, from here on out, you can see some of the fear in my eyes because we're going into a site that I've been attracting a predatory animal into a closed area, especially like bait site number 1 that's in the bottom of that canyon. It's a closed area that, it could be within 10 yards and you might not even see them because of how the brush is. So it's a lot of excitement right here. As it gets further along, you can start to see more fear in my eyes as we get to it. So we'll keep going here.
Nervous this weekend. You got that gut feeling where you're going to be walking into a bait site where there could be a bear on it. So buzz down on Friday. This is our camp, abandoned mine site. Super creepy. Not the best vibes, but we're going to get loaded up, head down to the bait site, and we'll catch up with you there. All right, bait site 1. This is when the nerves start to kick in. You got to sneak up here in this canyon. Just heading up this way right here. Eyes peeled. I mean, there could be a bear on it right now. We could be done in 30 minutes from now. So we got John Wayne over here. Never have too much firepower, I suppose.
You can't have too much firepower.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully this hunt ends here this afternoon. Keep you posted. All right, we made it to bait site number 2.
So yeah, June heat. It's very hot on this hunt. Right now it's later in the afternoon or later in the evening, and we've moved to bait site 2. Walking in on the bait site 1, I did not get a chance to film a lot of that because it was so nerve-wracking when you walk into an area that we now knew that there was a bear growling at us. So I knew there was something there within a close range. And walking into that, it was more so like I wanted to check the bait. I wanted to check the camera. So I wanted to pull the camera and the footage off the camera to see what has been hitting it. But there's only 2 of us. So somebody's got to hold the gun. Somebody's got to be looking at it because those trails are coming right down by the bait site. If something truly were to come in quick, I still don't even think that we'd be able to react in time because of how narrow that first bait site was. So I didn't film a lot of that, but we walked up on that bait site. It's been a week or about 5 days after we left it. So I estimate we put down about maybe 60, 70 pounds of food onto that site, and every drop was gone. Every kernel of dog food, every donut, every cookie, everything was gone. There was only dirt left on that first bait site. And when you walk up there and you feel like you've left a lot of food and every bit of it's gone, I remember looking at my friend and was like, did somebody come in here and steal it? Like, did somebody come in and wipe out my bait site? Is someone trying to sabotage my hunt? Because there's no way that all that food is gone. I mean, all that food's gone. Every bit of it. How long has it been gone for? And so then it's like, one big part about bear hunting is when you're baiting, you want to be consistent. You want the bait to be consistent because bears will visit the bait site consistently. So when your bait is gone, then they're probably gone. They'll move on and they'll find other food. So then those, you have doubt creep in of how long has that bait site been empty? should I have been, up here sooner? Should I try to get more food up here sooner? Because it's all gone. So maybe those bears have moved on. So the plan was not to hunt that site. I'm the only one with the tag, so I have to choose between either site that I want to sit and watch. So the plan was go into the bait site 1, pull the camera, see what bears have been hitting it and what times the bears have been hitting it. Go all the way back up the canyon, drive back up the canyon, go all the way down into bait site 2, check that site, pull the camera from it, and then compare what kind of activity we have between the two sites to determine what made the best choice to sit that evening and watch. When looking at bait site 1, there was a ton of activity as we expected. It took about an hour after we left that site that first Monday when the bear was growling at us. Within an hour after we left, the bear visited that site. So it waited an hour for us to leave before it actually came into that site. And there was a lot of bears that were coming into that site, different, mostly smaller bears at that time. And a lot of the activity was at night and like well into dark and after hours. So when we got to the bait site 2 and looked at the activity there, activity was less, but more in shooting light. So in the evening and afternoon. So we felt best to sit there that evening and see, well, maybe something could come in that evening because that bait site was pulling more evening bears as opposed to nocturnal bears. And so what you're seeing here is now we've actually checked those cameras and are sitting truly hunting for the first time.
Bait site number 1, pretty sketchy. A little scary. Pull the cameras. Now there's 6 bears hitting bait site number 1. Probably 1 shooter. Kind of hard to tell if it's a boar or a sow. We're up here at bait site 2. Pull the camera. So this is bait site 2. So the first pictures are bears that were hitting bait site 1. That very first picture you saw, kind of a big, fluffy brown bear. These are all black bears, but brown in color. That first bear was the one that came in right after we were there. And it came in that afternoon. So that was the only bear that was really there in the afternoon. A lot of those other pictures you can see are mostly at dark. This picture here was what got me excited because this bear was pretty. He wasn't scraggly looking. There wasn't a lot of, we saw a lot of bears that were losing fur. They're losing winter coat. They're moving into summer coat because they just don't look that appealing. I mean, they look kind of scary because they're all scraggly and scrangly. This bear I could tell was very mature, had a true hump on his back. For reference, those rocks that you're seeing in this picture, this is from the bait site looking out. Those are big boulders. Those aren't just like rocks you can move. Those are boulders that you could not move. You would need a crane to move those type of rocks. So when you see pictures of this bear as it gets close to those rocks, it puts the size into reference a little bit. So I knew, one, that bears were hard to judge, and that's why I had cameras, is to hopefully get a better idea of which bears were which that were coming in. And for reference point, if I can see a bear up against a boulder, I know how tall it stands and whatnot. So when I saw this bear, immediately it was, okay, he's a target bear. He is the bear I want. He's visiting in the evenings about 7:30. He was pretty consistent. I was excited. I'm like, hey, 7:30 is going to come around. This bear's going to come out. Very quickly, my buddy and I, we nicknamed him Mordew. So this is Mordew. That comes from the Disney Brave, that bear, the big bear in that movie. So that is Mordew that you're seeing here in late May. And I knew right away that was a bear that I wanted. He was my target bear, and he was being consistent in coming into the site. So I felt pretty good that evening that we were going to see him, and knowing that we had other bears in the area and quite a bit of other bears, I felt, well, maybe I should probably hold out a little bit. I shouldn't shoot the first bear I see because I know there's a good bear in this canyon. Probably
That's him next to that boulder. You can see him coming in right there.
One really, really nice boar. Nice chocolate brown.
That's him at night.
He's been hitting about 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening.
That's a bear actually eating a donut off our site. See the donut in his mouth.
Get posted up and overlook this bait site. Can show you out. Kind of see down there. So the bear got cameras.
So we're it's about 134 yards to the bait site. You can see clear on that other side. There's huge boulders clear on that other side.
Fingers crossed.
All the way across to there's anywhere between a 400 and 700 yard shot. Not the shot you want to take, but we're about 130 yards from that bait site.
Bear number 1 just came in. Talk about an adrenaline rush, dude. I don't know, I've hunted my whole life. Gotten buck fever. But this is different. This is a different feeling. It's on edge, on your toes. This bear came in this canyon, headed towards the bait. He's a smaller bear. I don't want to shoot. I think it's a smaller sow. I don't really feel like shooting that one. I know there's bigger bears in here. But
So this bear came in, first bear comes in, and we'd only been sitting there for about 45 minutes. This is kind of middle of the afternoon. And when you're bear hunting and you're on a bait site, they just appear. You're just sitting there and all of a sudden, like, boom, there's a bear. There's a bear right there. And they're deadly silent when they need to be. They're so quiet when they're coming into the sites. And having never hunted a bear, it was like, we did it, right? Like, we did all the research. We got the sites ready. We got bait. A bear came in. Like, that could have been it. It would have been done within the first hour. But it was a smaller bear. And you can see my friend here locked and loaded, ready to go. That bear comes into the site and then turns. So after it eats for a little bit, it turns and walks directly towards us. So it's walking below us because that shelf is down below us off the cliffs, but it's walking directly towards us. It walks into the trees about 100 yards below us, and we lose sight of him. So what you're seeing here is I can't see the bear. I know the bear is last seen walking towards us. After coming in a different direction, it started walking towards us, and that was it. That was the last I saw the bear. It's just coming towards us. So we're having our own conversations here of like, if this bear comes up this cliff or it pops out and it's anything closer than 20 yards away, I'm going to have to shoot this thing. Like, it must have smelled us, or maybe it smelled the bait on my pants or on my gloves, and it's coming into me. So those are the conversations we're having here is like, man, this bear could be right here. They could come right in and it could be trying to get to us. It could be trying to eat something that's a lot bigger than what's on the bait site. So he's locked and loaded and ready to go because obviously he doesn't have a tag. So he's just here and doesn't want to die on this hunt with me. So yeah, you can see some of the fear in our eyes here because the bear was coming towards us and all of a sudden it just disappeared.
She walked in, kind of checked out the bait, and then turned around and lost sight and is somewhere below us. So it's genuine fear at this point. She's gonna keep checking every angle.
And every squirrel sounds like a bear when you're expecting a bear. Every snap of a twig, you think the bear's right behind you.
I just need that big one to come in and let's end this thing. All right, it's 4:15. That bear came back in. He's down the bait right now. Super skinny.
Hopefully we're back here. Hold on. All right, we got disconnected there, but I think we're back. Apologies for that. Okay, chat successfully connected. Okay, everything should be successfully reconnected there. So sorry about that. Good thing we were paused. Video wasn't going. But as I was saying there, this bear came in. I thought it was the same bear. Turns out it was not. It was a different bear that was coming into our site. And I could tell by the look of this bear that it was very young. It had a very pointy snout. He wasn't very big and muscly. very skittish. Every step he would take, he'd almost want to look around to see what else was there. So this was a very clear. I'm not here to shoot this little bear. He needs to grow quite a bit more. So definitely wanted to let him continue to grow, and not a bear I was after at this point in the hunt.
Gonna pass on him. He's not bad. He's not a bad bear, but he's not the biggest. With it being the first hour, I think we're gonna pass on him, but we'll see if you can see him.
You can see he's actually on that, eating that site, and eating all that food right now.
Kind of hard to see him with this camera, but we got some other footage of this little bear. Pretty exciting to be able to come in here in first hour, be able to shoot this bear, but I think we'll hold off. If the pattern holds true, the bigger cinnamon, he's been coming in at about 4:30 to 7, so this could get exciting here in the next 2 hours, but we'll keep filming. We'll keep getting bears on camera. Well, good morning. Last night was eventful. Looking back at footage, I think we had 2 different bears come in. I thought it was the same bear, but 2 different bears came in that I let go. I think there's bigger bears in here. Well, I know there's bigger bears in here. So there's specifically on that side, I know there's one bigger cinnamon boar. So
And next to that boulder, he's so big,
there, I'm gonna
so
hold out
big.
for him. Had I not known what was in there, I probably would have shot that second bear last night because he was borderline. So, but this morning we're back at bait site number 1. We put food down last night, brought another 40 pounds of food, and it's all gone, every bit of it. So I counted 6 different bears hit this last night.
So I hope you caught that. So we put down food initially. We walked in there that Friday afternoon, and it was all gone. We had more food. I had stuff to restock the site. I didn't have all like a similar amount to what we put down the first time. I just had some additional stuff. So that Friday night, we put down what I had, and we quickly realized like I didn't have enough food. I didn't put down another 50 pounds or 60 pounds, 70 pounds. I put down what I had. I had some more food. And we sat at the other bait site. We sat at bait site 2 that night, which were when those bears came in. So now we're back at bait site 1, which is the lower site. And this is the next morning, and all the food we put down the night before was gone. Every bit of the food we just put down was gone. So that night alone, I bet they ate 20, 30 pounds of food. All the bears that came in that night to bait site 1 that we were not sitting at, and probably should have been sitting at that night, and just made the wrong call that night before. Not necessarily the wrong call, because we still saw bears, but we had more bear activity on the bait site 1 that first night.
Right. Probably should have sat here, but we're posted up. Bait's down there. So I don't know. I don't have enough food. I wish I had more food. I wish I had more donuts, more stuff, because I wasn't expecting this many bears. I mean, I'll put some trail cam photos in, and you'll see how many bears are actually in here, but I think there's 3 shooters for sure, and the rest are kind of those borderline bears, so we'll sit this morning, we'll see if anything comes in, and if we get a big bear come in, I'll shoot it, but I think everything's mostly been evening activity, nothing really in the morning, so not expecting much the rest of the morning.
So you see that we're sitting there in the morning. Throughout the entire hunt, every time we sat a bait site in the morning, I never saw a bear. So now 1 bear came in during the morning. Morning activity was just, we didn't see bears coming in the morning. Everything was evening activity or late at night. So every morning was kind of like, we'll sit just in case. But majority of the day was quick morning sit, come back, have breakfast, regroup, take a quick nap if needed, and then back out to bait sites. Bears started hitting the sites about 12:30 in the afternoon. We were sitting in that June heat for most of the days, sitting on a site from about noon until dark, which is 9 o'clock in the summer. So we're talking 9 hour sits, just sitting on the dirt ground for the most part. So we didn't put a lot of effort into those morning hunts because these trail cams were saying, hey, there's not a lot of activity in the morning. I didn't have a lot of high hopes for morning hunts. So, and nobody wants to walk into a bait site in the dark anyways. So, not a lot of stock put into those morning hunts. And especially that first morning after seeing all the bears that had come in that night before and realizing I didn't have enough food. We had to have people go back to town, try to get food in town to see what they had. And because I knew I didn't have enough food to last a whole nother week. We weren't going to come down until that next weekend. So the hunt kind of changed at that opening this weekend to that point of, okay, I need to go find more food in order to even have this hunt last another weekend, because if I don't put more food down, these bears are going to leave. So the hunt kind of changed at that point that weekend of, well, let's try to get more food down. Obviously, we're still hunting. But at its peak, throughout the season, I counted over 20 different bears on bait site number 1 alone. Some of the bears crossed over between bait sites 1 and 2. They were I would say they're about 2 or 3 miles apart. In total, I would say over 25 different bears verified by trail camera pictures within about a 5-mile radius. So I personally have pictures of over 25 different bears, 5 of which I thought were big enough to be considered shooters. 1 or 2, I would say 2 that were top of the line. Obviously, 1 being my target bear. You saw that cinnamon that we were calling Mordu. Another one, Mordu was only on bait site number 2, so the upper site. The other one was exclusively on bait site 1. He is a monster. In fact, he almost looks like a grizzly bear the way he's in some of his pictures. He was very nocturnal and only on bait site number 1. A lot of his pictures are 1, 2, 3 a.m. and very rarely did he ever come in the evening. If it was about 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Sorry, like right at dark. And those were the 2 bears that I felt were way above the rest. And coming from a spot where I was expecting to see maybe 1, 2 bears max, maybe, to over 24 different bears that are eating my food, like, holy cow. Changes your perspective on hunting in these canyons in so many ways, right? Like, it just changes things in so many ways. And just going into that hunt that way, I don't know, it changes the way you think about how comfortable you are in the outdoors. You're really in their territory and you don't know it a lot of the time. So yeah, I have a new appreciation for hunting these canyons, especially now. So yeah, I'll continue this footage, but just, man, you go on a bear hunt, you see how many bears are out in the outdoors. We all need to be more careful with how we are on other hunts and other seasons.
Well, back at camp, morning hunt, nothing much happened. Bears definitely got in there into that bait site. I think we pulled the camera and it looks like 6 different bears hit it last night, ate all the food we had in there. So we're headed back into not that bait site, but the other one, the one we sat last night. This afternoon, we got more food into it. And that's where there's kind of that big brown cinnamon looking boar in there, and that's kind of my number 1 bear. So I'm hoping he's been coming in between about 4 o'clock and 9. So we're hoping that we can kind of.
And he was consistent.
Catch him
that
into
big
there,
bear
but
was Pretty consistent, either every day or every
We're
other
back at
day.
camp cooking some
Between
breakfast.
4 and 9.
Give you a little camp tour. These are our fantastic mine buildings that we camp next to. So this is an abandoned coal mine. My dad actually worked at this coal mine, but these are all abandoned mine buildings that they've been abandoned for quite some time now. Haven't really been upkept. There's actually some cool graffiti in some of them. Gotta watch for some glass over here. You can see in there some cool graffiti and stuff. We just kind of camp in the old mine parking lot. It's a pretty cool little area.
So I wanted to showcase this, that not every campsite is beautiful. Not every campsite is, a stunning backdrop. And this is obviously, there's some pretty cliffs here and stuff, but when you camp next to an abandoned mine site, granted, most of the time it's just wind blowing through buildings, it closes doors, but there's an energy that exists there that hard to explain. Most of the time it's an eerie energy. Maybe it drains your car batteries, or you have a fresh battery on a 4-wheeler that will die. I really wanted to try to capture this because we've camped there a long time, and most people would never want to camp next to an abandoned mine building like that. And I completely understand, because there is an energy in those type of places that it's not the best energy. And that's a true thing. It's a true thing that there are feelings in places that are different than other places. So yes, that's a true thing when people say that place has a bad energy.
Been hunting here my whole life. Never bear hunted. Never really thought there was this many bears. I wasn't expecting there to be over 10 bears and stuff like that, but you never know. We got trailer all set up, camp tour, hash going. Looks good.
Get yourself a good grill. Get a Camp Chef, get a trailer with a grill. You can still eat good while you're on a hunt.
Trucks, like I said, more buildings, graffiti and stuff. Pretty cool. There's some old kind of warehouses kind of down over there. But kind of eerie. Nighttime you realize you're not alone. There's spirits in this place. You kind of feel it, but it's a good little camp. Works out for us. So we're gonna eat some breakfast, head back up. I think I'll probably be sitting noon to dark, and with bears, these bears have been coming in just about every 2 hours after you put food down. There's bears in there, so I think we have to be sitting there by noon, 1 o'clock for sure. So no point in sitting here at camp. Might as well go sit on the hillside. So we'll keep you updated once we hike back into that site, but we're gonna eat some breakfast and go from there. Well, we're back in here at bait site number 2 this evening. Same one we sat last evening. It's 12.
And I mentioned these are long sits, and you're in June heat. So June, basically high altitude mountain heat. It's very hot, very hot. At one point, this is my good friend sitting here. At one point, I look over and he's got his entire shirt off. He's got his pants rolled up and is just baking in the sunlight, and is like, we got to do something. We got to find shade. We got to build some shelter here, because man, it is hot, and you're in camo. So most part you're in long sleeves, long pants, boots. Yeah, those are some long days, especially when you don't always see stuff and the bears aren't always coming in. So you always have to be on alert. It's a long day to sit in June heat from, in the sun from 12 to 9. So yeah, thanks again. I've said it before, but all the people that helped in this hunt, volunteered their time to come be a part of that. I can't thank them enough for coming and sitting with me, being my extra gun, being the person that's watching my back, and to do so, all on their own accord, just to come help out. So thank you to everybody that was part of this. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
45. It's going to be our Saturday night sit. feeling pretty good about it. We got fresh bait down there, some taco time, courtesy of the Taco Time in Price, Utah. We got some fresh food down there, fresh lure.
So yeah, the Taco Time in Price, Utah actually hooked us up with all of the tacos, meat expired, anything that was expired or being thrown out. We were able to stop by and grab that. Instead of it going to waste, we could actually put it to use. So we put down, a lot of it was like taco salad and burritos and things of that nature, putting that onto the bait sites. And it actually would make the entire canyon smell like Taco Time. I don't know if you've ever been in a Taco Time or any Mexican fast food place. That's what the canyon smelled like, because we put down so many burritos out on these bait sites that are mostly in the sun, so that it's baking a little bit. But the entire canyon actually would smell like Taco Time, which is kind of crazy that the burritos like that would put out such a smell that even for us we could smell it. I'm sure the bears were going crazy. And I know they were, because they would come in and you'd see a bear who would grab that's just one bear, huge burrito. We're talking a huge burrito. It come in and it took a bite and it ate the burrito in one bite. And it looked up and it had a big burrito in its mouth. And it's kind of funny, but they do love tacos, taco salad, burritos. I can attest that those bears were all over it.
And we know there's bears in the canyon, so we'll see what it holds. It's hot. Peace sight's about right there. Bears been coming in right through here. It's a big old canyon. We got 9 hours of sitting ahead of us though, so it's gonna be a long night. Let's hope not. Let's hope a bear comes in. It could be a long night. All right, back at camp after night hunt number 2. Man, I'm just letting bears go left and right. I'm not holding out for a giant. I feel like my ethical responsibility is to shoot the biggest bear that I can find. We saw 3 different bears last night, or tonight. One we've had on camera. I know he's not very big, pretty, kind of blonde. We did get some video of him. I'll put it in here, but the other 2 are kind of more chocolate. Not either bear we've seen before. The second of which, the last one we saw, he was at about 300 yards. I think I probably should have shot. I don't know. Well,
so I mentioned that we saw a couple bears that night. This last of which was about 300 yards. So when you're looking at this footage, when you look down, you can see the bait side. I mentioned there's a big canyon all the way across. That's about 400 to 600 yards. But if you were to come up to our right and come up that canyon a ways, that canyon still goes way back that ways as well. And the bottom of that is about 300 to 600 as well. So we had a bear in the bottom of that canyon that did not come into our sight. And we saw him right at dark. And again, judging bears at 400, 300, anything past 100 yards, it just looks like a big blob of brown or black or blonde. Kind of hard to get an idea of how big is that bear actually. And at the time, it was getting close to dark. He was moving in between some pine trees, and he was stopping and giving us decent looks. And I was set up on the gun, and this was near dark. We didn't get any on this footage, and it would have been a hard angle anyways. Through the scope, he didn't really look like bear I thought he was, or I didn't think he was one of the ones that I was after. Again, it was also in the bottom of a very long canyon, so I wanted to be very sure if I was going to shoot a bear down in that canyon that, not on the site, but actually down in that canyon to our right, that it was going to be a good one and worth the hike in and out of that canyon, off of cliffs and stuff. So I ultimately let him pass, and I I'm not entirely sure if he came back in or if he was any of the bears that came back in, but uh, it's a tough choice to let a bear pass like that. But I wanted to be sure of what I was going to shoot and be ethical and know that the bear that I was going to take is one that I was either after or was mature enough to be considered a good bear with the amount of bear activity we were having on this hunt.
Only night number 2, I'm seeing, I mean, we got over a dozen bears that are either on camera or we've seen in person, so I'm not in a rush here, but I'm just looking for a mature bear that has a pretty coat. I think I've earned the right to be a little picky with how many bears there are here, so that's what we'll do. We'll be a little picky. But back at camp, we got cheddar dogs for dinner.
Cheddar dogs, classic, always good.
Cheddar dogs for dinner, and looks like we got some hunts on the TV in there. A little break from bear hunt action to go pick up my dad's buck from last year, all done up Monarch Mountain. Man, they did a good job on this.
If you're looking for the best taxidermist in the state of Utah,
Officially scored does
Monarch
make Pope and
Mountain.
Young, so we'll get them all submitted there.
this
Mount
will be my
turned out
dad's
fantastic.
Book Cliffs buck. And fingers crossed, we should be going back out there again this year.
Mass for days, man.
Hunt muleys like that. So that is a true Pope and Young buck right there. Any of you are archery deer hunters, you know that that's what you're after, and
All right, we're
the
back.
Book Cliffs holds that.
Weekend number 5 today's.
All right, so after the quick break, we're back to weekend. I say weekend number 5. So there's a lot of activity, like I mentioned, between weekend 1, where we had all that, the early filming and all those bears coming in, to now weekend 5. So we did hunt those other weekends, and activity dropped a little bit because I struggled to keep the sites full of food. That many bears, feeding that many bears is almost impossible to get that many bears fed. So I was running out of food on my sites quite frequently. And I had some different friends come and join us on those hunts. We still had opportunities, one of which was really close. I had finger on the trigger, and a bear was again moving. It was down in the canyon to our right, so similar to like I was saying the weekends before. We had a bear not come into our site and was just actually coming in to the canyon. He was hanging out in that canyon, and he was working all the way up from down on the bottom and clear up above and behind us. And I had finger on the trigger, safety off on that bear because I could tell he was a little bit bigger than anything I'd seen. And I thought it was more dew. From a quick look, I could see cinnamon. And I had friends there, and I was really excited and thought I was going to pull the trigger on that one, but he never stopped long enough to where I felt like I had a good shot. Again, I want to be ethical. I want to make sure that my shots are good. And so we let that bear go. That had been about weekend 3 or 4. I don't remember which one it was, but still had opportunities, but activity had definitely died off. So I knew I wanted to gear up towards the end of this hunt to stockpile the food and kind of restart in a sense. So I reordered more Boar Masters, got more dog food, visited Taco Time, re-upped everything, and basically started over mid-hunt because all my food had been gone. Bears were leaving, so I was starting over. Weekend 5, we basically did start over at this point. This is the last weekend of this hunt. You'll see here, you'll see the big green behind us. So this is bait site number 1. And I'll start to give some background into this weekend because this weekend was nothing short of excitement. But approaching this site, we were coming down the dirt road, and right before the pull off that we would park at to go hike up the canyon to go to this site, there was another truck. There was another truck parked there, which we thought was odd because there was nobody in the truck, and there shouldn't really have been any. The only hunt that was going on was our bear hunt, and my 2 bait sites were the only registered bait sites anywhere near us. And that's by nature of design with how the bait sites work in the state of Utah, in that somebody else can't place a bait site right next to yours, right? They have to be within a certain distance. The city of Utah does a really good job of monitoring that. And we thought it was odd that there was a truck parked there, which, hey, it's public land. People can come do, they can go camp, whatever they want. But within, 150 yards.
June 20th. Took some time off for Father's Day from this hunt, but we're back in here this Thursday. Reloaded bait. Actually put down some bear and heat spray. Now these bears are coming into mating season, so hopefully that might start bringing some more boars in, less sows. And yeah, we're here at bait site number 1. You can see down there. Baits.
I'm going to pause this for a second, make sure, doing some drop frames, so I want to make sure things look good connection-wise. Hold on just a moment. We're gonna all right. Hopefully we're all reconnected here. I just see drop frames, so I see some on the tech side. I just want to make sure things run smooth and things aren't choppy and you're losing us. So let's see how this looks.
Sprayed down. We'll sit here tonight and see what comes in.
It should be a little bit better. Sorry about that.
Hopefully not burned to death and get eaten alive by bugs. Hopefully the next time you see us, I will have pulled the trigger. Stay tuned though.
Okay, so now we're to the next morning. So I mentioned that sitting there that night, or going into that site, we'd seen a truck parked there. As we were sitting there that night on bait site number 1, oh gosh, we'd only been sitting there maybe 2 or 3 hours at that point. We were actually surprised with a gunshot. So there was a gunshot, but, you're in a quiet canyon, all of a sudden, boom, there's a gunshot within 200 yards of us. So it catches you and you're like, who's shooting? Is somebody up here target shooting? It's very weird. Then about 15 minutes after that first shot, boom, there's a second shot. And, it's my dad and I were kind of thrown off, like kind of weird. It's not, seems like someone's target shooting because of the distance in between, or the time between the shots. And then about 15 minutes after that second shot, we heard that truck start back up, and it takes off back up the road out of the canyon, which was weird. We thought that was weird at the time. The next morning, we got to, this is now bait site number 2, but that morning we had ran into Canyon Patrol. So there's a patrol that actually, both DWR and actually there's actually a Canyon Patrol as well. We know them quite well. They knew we had bait sites and we're hunting bears in there. They had actually stopped us and asked if we had seen anybody in these canyons hunting bears other than us. And we'd said, no, well, we saw this other truck. And at the time we said, well, actually we did hear 2 gunshots last night. And so we did hear some gunshots. That next morning we heard 2 more gunshots. So early in the morning, boom, that would be the 3rd gunshot. About 15 minutes after that one, boom, that's the 4th gunshot. So first shots were on Thursday night. Second shots were on Friday morning. The footage you're seeing now is Sunday. So Thursday night, we sat, there's 2 shots. Friday morning, there's 2 more shots. We run into Canyon Patrol and DWR. We let them know, hey, we heard in total 4 gunshots. They said, okay, well, that confirms our suspicions that somebody is illegally hunting off of my bait sites, off of my registered bait sites. Nobody else had permission to hunt off my sites except for myself and the people that I was with that were helping me. So it did confirm their suspicions that somebody had illegally taken a bear of a non-registered site, basically not off of their registered site. So DWR got involved and they came into our camp on Friday afternoon. So hearing that there were shots Thursday night and Friday morning, we met with the DWR officers on Friday afternoon, gave them our full statements of what had occurred, basically just saying that we had heard gunshots. And again, we had reported the truck that we saw earlier as well. Maybe it was connected, maybe it's not, but it's worth noting to the DWR officers. And they were planning to run dogs. So the DWR officers had hound dogs that they were going to be bringing into those areas where the gunshots occurred, because they have to do their due diligence to find either was a bear poached, was an animal poached, what can they find? Can they find any blood trails, anything like that? And that occurred within 200 yards of my bait site. So, the DWR officer was apologetic, but basically saying, hey, we have to come in and clear out this canyon. We have to come run dogs, clear everything out. In the event that somebody did illegally harvest something and there was an illegal bait site, they can't be drawing bears into an illegal site. It has to be, you can only draw bears into an actual registered site. And because it occurred so close to mine, essentially they were going to be pushing any of the bear activity that I had been pulling in. They were going to clear out an entire canyon. They were going to clear out all of the bears within that canyon. So not a great feeling that all of the hard work, all of the bears that I had drawn into this canyon they were essentially going to be clearing out. And this was after I basically started all the way over and bringing in food. So not a great feeling. A lot of the activity Friday, of course, after they ran dogs, it was very silent. Nothing came in. Nothing came in all day on Saturday. And there was only one more weekend after that I could hunt. So our attention had really turned to the very last weekend, not the weekend that we were in, because again, I was going to have to start all the way over. They had cleared out the entire canyon. DWR officers did put notice out to the checking stations. So there are check stations after you shoot a bear in the state of Utah that you have to go take your bear to check it in. So they check it in, they do age testing, all of that stuff to make sure things are good. As part of that, you have to let the officers know where you harvested that bear. So they did put alerts out to all the checking stations in an attempt to say, hey, if anybody checks in a bear in this area, please let us know, because it may have been illegally taken. Turns out it was. Some individuals that I have no idea who they are. Obviously not great hunters. They're not ethical. They want to cheat systems. Not anybody that should be allowed to hunt, in my opinion. If you want to do that type of thing, there's no place for it in the hunting community that we're trying to build. They had heard of bears in the area. I don't know where from, but obviously there were bears because I was hunting bears in the area. They did have a bear tag, and they came up and threw some donuts off the road, about 50 yards off the road, threw some donuts on the side of the road. And of course, bears found them because I was drawing on all the bears to the canyon. So I'd done all the hard work of bringing all the bears into that area. Of course, they're going to find some donuts that are on the ground. So they came in, threw some donuts on the ground. The bears obviously ate everything. So they were like, oh my gosh, there's bears here. They went back into town, got more food, went back up that Thursday evening, put more food down 50 yards off the road, which is also an illegal spot. Put more food down. A bear came in and they shot a bear that night. So the night that we'd heard the first two shots, they did shoot a bear that night. What the two shots were after that, so Friday morning, the other two shots, I don't know. We were told, given some information, obviously I'm sure there's investigations that go on, but we did get some of that information that they noted that they harvested a bear Thursday night, did not note any gunshots on Friday morning. In my opinion, and solely my opinion, I do think there was more than one hunter. I think they tried to shoot at more than one bear, uh, possibly even taking two, checking in one. I don't know. That's all my opinion. That is not what happened. I don't know that that's what happened, but noting that you'd shoot a bear on Thursday, why would you have gunshots on Friday? If the bear was still alive, well, that means you harvested the bear on Friday, not on Thursday. So, and they were not entirely forthcoming. I mean, obviously, they were not on registered bait sites. Only my sites were registered. So, yeah. So that's a bummer feeling. All the hard work that I'd done up to this point, somebody had basically taken advantage of and possibly killed my target bear or a really good bear. I didn't know, but activity dropped. I mean, there was gunshots in these canyons. Dogs have been pushed up these canyons. So all day Friday was mostly with DWR. Did not see any bears. All day Saturday, both morning and evening, did not see anything. Not even really a bird after the hound dogs ran up and down the canyons barking and all that. Called and did a check-in with my mom on that Saturday night, and she was kind of asking us, well, what are your plans? What are the plans for the morning? We said, well, we'll probably give it a quick try in the morning before we pack everything up, and then we would come home Sunday afternoon and have to re-gear and come back out the next weekend. And she said, well, you're going to go out in the morning. Why don't you go out early? Go out earlier than you've ever gone before. So all of the morning hunts that we even did, I mentioned earlier, we didn't do much in the morning. All the activity was like 8 to 9 a.m. if we ever did have activity on trail cams in the morning. So we had figured, well, we'll get into the bait sites around 7 a.m. and sit there until about 10 a.m. and then we would leave. She said, well, go in before that. Go in before sunrise, go in the dark, and actually sit there, change things up. Just got a wild hair, go in early and change things up. And that's what we did. So this footage is now Sunday morning, and 5:30 a.m. I look across the canyon and a bear pops out, basically standing on this cliff, this huge cliff. And this is all the way across. Like what you're seeing here is the shelf. If you were to go even further up onto the other side, that's where I first see the bear. And I tell my dad, like, there's a bear right there. There's a bear across the canyon. I can shoot it right there. I'm getting the scope up and he's trying to find him with his binoculars, and I can say like, well, I have the shot right now. I'm going to take it. I have to take it right now because this is the only clear shot I have. And this is about 450 yards away. And I could tell at the time that it was a good bear because I'd seen at this point a lot of bears at that distance, and he was by far way bigger than anything I'd seen. And I was on him, getting ready to take the shot. We ultimately decide it's not the shot we want. It's not the best thing to do. So the bear walks down towards us, but down to the bottom of the canyon, and we lose sight of him. Like, well, hope is maybe this is a bear that is actually coming into the bait site and it's just slowly working from a different canyon all the way up into our canyon, all the way over to this food that he can smell. Sure enough, that is what happens. And about 15 minutes after we first saw that bear, I see the bear step out below, and that's where this footage starts. Is I can tell right away, first instant, that is my target bear. That is Mordu. I can quickly see him in the scope that he's a very good bear. He's big. He's the one I've been after. And he had never, not one time, ever been at a bait site in the morning. We hadn't seen him at this point for almost up to 2 weeks. He'd never visited a bait site in the morning. everything was between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. And now all of a sudden on the morning that we got the wild hare, after all of that activity, everything that happened, my target bear is now coming out in the morning before 6 a.m. This is like 5:50 a.m., barely first shooting light. This bear is coming out now. And it's the first time he's ever done this. First time we've ever seen this bear in the morning. So I digress. I'll let this footage play out. We had the opportunity to actually I had an opportunity to take a shot a few different times as he was approaching the site, but I knew ultimately with what he was smelling, you'll see this bear. He comes in and you can see that cliff edge here. The cliff edge goes all the way around about middle of the screen. The day before, I had actually gone out there and sprayed more of the Boarmasters, the raspberry donut spray. I had sprayed and made a path on the exact route that this bear was coming in on. He's actually smelling and sniffing the path that I sprayed the day before. And he walks the exact same path that I did, following the exact same scent trail, because I made a trail all the way to the site. So I knew once he got where he was going that he was smelling what I was spraying, and he was going to turn around and come back towards this. All right, we got disconnected there. I think we're back. All right, pausing for a second. We got to make sure we're good, especially at this point. We got to make sure our stream quality is good here. Hold on. Bear with me for a moment. All right, let's make sure we're reconnected. Okay, should be good now. Right here, kind of a little nervous because he disappears out of sight. This is almost exactly the footage I have through my scope in a sense, but I knew he was going to turn back by that tree because that's where I sprayed. So obviously there was so much excitement up to that point. With the bear coming in the way he did. So I hit the bear 3 times there. Possibly a sense too many shots, but I wanted to make sure that that animal did not suffer, and it was quickly put down. So I did hit that bear 3 times. You'll see that it quickly died afterwards. Since we didn't want that bear to run off in a cliff or run off deeper into a canyon, we want to make sure that it was put down as quickly as possible, which is what I did there in my attempt. So yeah, I mean, at this point, like what just happened, like all those excitement and those nerves, everything just comes together, and it's pure joy. I mean, yeah, all the hard work of weeks of putting out bait, and I knew in this moment that was my target bear, and more dew was down, and after all the bears that I let go, the target bear that I was after and hadn't seen it, everything worked out in a way in the sense that I got the bear that I was after. We withheld and made a sense to try to get the bear we were after, and it came through. So if you're on a hunt and you have a target bear and you have the time, keep after it. Keep after it. Keep after it. Keep after it. Those bears will come back. You will get another opportunity, and you'll get to feel what we're feeling here in this scene.
Big bear down. Big bear down. Big bear down. Oh my gosh, this weekend has been so discouraging. So discouraging from BS of non-ethical hunters ruining some of my bait sites, dealing with that shit, trying to say that the positives guys gotta win, the ethical hunters gotta win at some point. Put in work and work and work. Passed on small bears, had a target bear in mind. I'm fairly certain he's down. If it's not him, it's another great big bear. Oh my gosh. It's 6 o'clock. We heard kind of some cracking up in here. Bear pops out 3:30. Oh man, should I shoot? Should I not? He kind of just keeps cruising. Well, maybe he's hungry and he's coming to bait down here. We're waiting. Just fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed he's going to come out. They usually have come out kind of right behind this tree. They keep kind of coming out right on this little trail right here. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, boom, pops out. Oh boy, there's a bear, he's right there, He kind of circled this cliff a little bit. You'll see, I got footage of all that, but kind of circled that cliff, almost took a shot in here. Said, nope, he's going to come all the way to the bait. Snuck into the bait, boom, dropped him right there. Still kind
So
of
you can see in this scene here, there's a big white cliff on the other side. That's about where he popped out initially. He came clear from the other canyon, so he came up all the way up over that ridge into our canyon.
Oh my gosh!
And traveled all that way. So he wasn't in our canyon. He was actually in that other canyon that just barely came into our canyon to come to the bait site.
And coming into an area that we've never hunted bears, only hunted deer in here. Didn't even think there was going to be any bears in here. And literally, for it to work out on a great big bear like that is so awesome. So, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to show you guys this. We'll keep you updated. We're going to pack up here, give him a few more minutes, and we'll make our way back down and check him out. But couldn't have worked out any better than that. All right, we've made our way up and around, getting ready to come out on the shelf and walk up on him. So fingers crossed he's actually dead. We'll be safe to make sure.
That's a scary feeling, walking up on what may be a wounded bear. That's that boulder these are those boulders I was talking about for reference. See how big a bear actually is. Those are true boulders that you're seeing. And the scene actually does a good job capturing how big Country actually is. It's nasty stuff. It's steep and deep, and it's deep country.
Okay, there he is.
Yeah, there's sagebrush. I was trying to find him. I'm at this point, I'm like 20 yards away. I can't even see him because he's laying down.
All right, I'm assuming he's probably dead.
I'm assuming because I threw a rock over there that this bear's dead.
You gotta get down here. Gotta make sure you're filming him.
Even on the camera footage, you still can't see this bear. Still about right here, and you're about 10 yards away before you'd actually be able to see him.
Oh, let me tell you, it's pretty scary when you get to right here. What do you say? Think he's done? Holy smokes, folks. He's a big bear.
Just a moment. Okay, we should be back hopefully.
Trying to check.
So you'll see here, I was saying, a very pretty bear. He's almost entirely blonde, or what I thought was cinnamon is actually blonde.
Yeah.
On his upper half, and almost entirely black and dark brown on his lower
Look
half.
at those. Holy smokes, folks. Dang. He's quite large. Looking back on this hunt, it's very clear to me that everything that took place over the course of a month is everything that Bloodline Hunter represents. This brand was started as something different within the hunting industry, promising to be more relatable, showcasing the everyday hunter that has camo coursing through their blood. We wouldn't have been able to accomplish anything without the support of so many individuals. My wife, for being an absolute rock star at home with our newborn, sending supportive texts in between diaper changes and reminding me that I'd put too much work, planning, stress, and commitment to a hunt that wasn't even theirs. For it to all come together with my dad by my side in a canyon that's been hunted by my family for over 50 years truly showcases everything that Bloodline Hunter is about. And lastly, to all of our growing community, I hope this hunt serves as a testament to you that you can absolutely do hard things, new things, or whatever you set your mind to. Anyone can be successful on a hunt with the right preparations, research, and commitment to always doing the right thing. We hope you enjoyed this film and encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, and share all of our content.
So obviously, yeah, everything that I said there at the end of that film is true. So many people to thank and that were a part of that hunt, and my supportive wife at home, being a rock star mom while I'm off hunting. Those are hard. That's hard things to do, and it requires a special group of people to be able to do something like that. And I'm very lucky in the sense that I have that group of people. But that being said, you don't, I started Bloodline Hunter, and we started Bloodline Hunter because I felt that the hunting community was missing or getting away from relatable content, in the sense that anybody can draw a tag, you can research on your own, you can go do the hunt on your own, and you don't have to have high fence, private land. You don't have to have all of the things that you need, that is pushed out there as far as with the hunting community things that you need. You can absolutely go do it. And that's why Bloodline Hunter was started, is that hunting is something that is so much more than just anything superficial. And I say that so many times, but it's not, how can this look the prettiest, or how can it, um, you know, sound the best? How can this hunt work out the best and get the biggest animal? Sometimes it's not always about that. Sometimes it works out that way, but that's the effort of hard work. And sometimes stuff happens on hunts that you can't plan for. And what truly matters is spending time with family, and having a group of people that you can be around, that can be supportive of you and remind you why you do it, and why you are an ethical hunter, and why you're doing the things you're doing. That's what truly matters. And if you don't have that, that's why Bloodline Hunter was started, is that you can interact with us by all means. You can send me a message. You can take advantage of our our Patreon and our consulting services that way. But you have that with us, and you will always have that with us, in the sense that our content is the true hunt, what's actually happening. Hoping to showcase some of that I felt was missing in the industry. So thank you for all those who joined. Obviously, coming in and out of the live stream, this is something new for us. we're going to have some tech issues and things like that. So I appreciate those that were a part of this and joined. If you'd like to see more of this, continue to interact with us. Let us know that you'd like to see more of this, and we will keep doing that. But if anything, I hope this prepares you for your bear hunts. I hope you watch this whole thing if you drew a tag in 2025 or are planning to draw a tag in 2025. If you do, please let us know. Happy to share any links, tips, anything we used. I will share that with you. I won't share where I got this bear, but wherever you draw a tag, if you want some help looking at things and deciding how to set things up, by all means, reach out and do so. And know that you have a support group. If you would like it, please reach out and you have it. So again, thanks for joining, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the year and your new year starts off great. And cheers to another hunting season, 2025 coming up. Thanks for joining.